You definitely want a smooth little butt. Gotta get in there. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, let's do some sanding. So this is from the supports. So we have to sand all this down so that his head is nice and smooth. Everything else looks pretty good. So first I'm going to start with 120 grit, which is very, very rough. And we're going to do it wet so we don't get resin dust all over the place. I still have the pieces in here. There we go. Finally got them out. So really quickly, essentially what's happening with sanding is you basically, with the rough sandpaper, you're kind of scraping up a lot of the surface of the resin. You're sort of the rough sandpaper is really abrasive, so it's kind of tearing up the surface of the resin. So what you want to do is kind of scrub it. Obviously it's going in slow-mo now. Sometimes I just do slow-mo for fun, but it roughens up the surface, so you're actually taking resin away from the surface. So the more you go over it, the more you're taking resin away, but it's going to be really like jagged, you know. So, I mean, this is like, we're talking in levels that are really small, so it's not like you're seeing like a jagged surface. Like, it's still fairly smooth, all things considered, but with really rough, you're making it really jagged. You're taking away a lot of the resin to get it down to a level surface. And then once you go higher, so I'm going to go to 600 after this. Once you go higher, then it's like a little bit finer. So you're still taking a little bit away, but it's smoothing out the jaggedness, so it's not so jagged. And then when you get to 2000, it's really smoothing it out, making it much less jagged and pretty much smooth. You'll notice I always rub my thumb on it. That's just so I can feel any, really jagged imperfections. Once I run my fingers on it, I can see how smooth and just make sure everything is sort of uniform. And then I just keep going and going and going. And you can't really get everywhere, but I just try to get most of the surface area of the pieces. He's pretty good on the front, but the back here, you see all this, so we got to get rid of that. Smooth little butt. And actually a much better technique is to hold the sandpaper and then actually just take the model and like scrub it against the sandpaper. That's a way easier because this takes forever. Still a little lumpy. And as you can see, this part I really sped it up even more than 4 times the speed because it really takes a long time. Firstly, there's just a lot of like surface area that you kind of have to go over, because when you're priming and painting, anything that's really not smooth, like super smooth, it will show the imperfections. And this color, like, that'll be fine once we paint over it. It's just like streaks in the resin, but that'll be fine once we prime it and color it. You won't even notice it. And he looks pretty good, but again, he has some warping here where I put the supports. Probably should have put him on his back like this. That way the supports would be here. The easiest place to sand is where you should put the supports. So this time I wanted to try the side, which isn't too bad, but we'll see. Can't wait to make more. I'm going to print out some more of just these guys and just paint them all one color. Really like this character. So excited. And even though it's a really tedious process, and it's, you know, kind of nasty and smelly, and it's a lot of chemicals, and it takes a lot to sort of get used to starting, it's really fun. It's really gratifying to have something that you sculpted yourself and then make it. Even these, I mean, I love pieces that plug in, but even just these pieces that are all together as one piece, I'm just going to airbrush this as one piece. It's like, it's just a nice feeling to have worked on it from, you know, inception, from creating it on the iPad and then to have it and to hold it. So if you're thinking about doing it, it's a bit tough to start with, but it's worth it. Oh, pretty smooth. You definitely want a smooth little butt. Gotta get in there. Little shell. Also want to sand these little pieces. Probably not as much, but because these are pretty easy to put the supports on the bottom, so they're not actually too bad. Top looks pretty good. Be fun to make some little Ninja Turtle characters. I've already got the shell. This was actually an older piece that I had made. It's this other character that I don't think I did it as a tutorial. It's just a random character that I made, but he has a little shell and his eyes are closed and he has teeth and things like that. So I decided to put him together with these sculpts. So you'll see him. You know what? I'll show a picture of the render of this little guy just so you can have an idea of what he looks like. Actually, I should plug it in right now. So now I'm going to go back over it with about 600. And then after that, I'm going to go back over it with around 2000. So start with the roughest 120. And now I'm just going to go up to about 600. And just kind of do the same thing. Now this will get it much, much smoother. I'm still not quite sure which is more efficient, to do all the grits on one character and then be done, or do each grit on each character. Yeah, see, this gets it much, much smoother. It feels really smooth. And that's just the process. It's kind of nice doing it at this grit though, because it feels really smooth. It starts to feel like a toy. Just smooth, clean plastic. You can even see with the gloss. Very super slick. It feels so much better. I don't know if you can see it, that spiral. Sometimes you can see that once you put the primer on. So it's kind of annoying. You can feel it too. You can feel that little spiral there. So I might try to take the rougher one and just try to go back over that a little bit. That's been the only problem with sanding and printing. That little part is very hard to get rid of. Still feels a bit rough there. I don't feel it, so hopefully it's gone. Glad I caught it. There is a little hole there. I don't know if you can see that little spot. What's annoying about things like that is the primer and the paint you might be able to see it. So let me try to get rid of that. Again, little spots like that can be really difficult to get off. Yeah, it's still there a little bit. Feels pretty smooth otherwise. So now I'm just going over the ones that I've already worked on just to kind of double check, make sure there's nothing, run my fingers over it, make sure there's no jagged parts. Sometimes the supports can leave like little jagged edges and things like that. So I'm just kind of going over it, doing a once over. This one's a little tough because I can't really get inside the mouth to smooth out the tongue, but so far so good. They're all looking pretty smooth. And this is the 2000 grit. So we'll just go over everything really quickly with the 2000 just to really polish it off. It always feels so nice with the 2000. I'm just going over some of these smaller pieces too, just because I'm just going to do 600 and 2000 just to get them nice and smooth. So they have nice clean teeth. Thicker teeth are so much easier to work with. I'm not worried about them breaking. So this is very messy. It gets on your hands. It gets on the floor. I don't know if you can see. Probably not, but there's like little white dots all over the floor. So it's quite messy, but wet sanding is definitely better than dry sanding. I go through a lot of sanding paper. So just be aware that it's pretty messy. I got this from Michael's, I don't know, for like $5 or $7 or something, this tray, but it worked out pretty well. And this is just regular Tupperware, and this is just regular water. So that's pretty much it for the sanding. When they dry, they start to look really ashy, but they are pretty smooth. So I'm probably gonna go just rinse these off and just let them dry. I'll probably wait a day, maybe half a day to prime these, but they are ready for priming. So I have the little spray cans of primer, white primer. So I'm gonna spray them, and then I can figure out some colors and figure out some paint. So next up will be priming, whenever that happens. Maybe I'll post this video and then just post the priming video afterwards. We'll see. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to go more in depth with Nomad Sculpt, then definitely check out my Skillshare classes where I am a top teacher. I have about 50 classes, both Procreate and Nomad Sculpt. I also have a few classes on Udemy, so if you want to learn more, or you just like my style, you like the way I teach, you want to support me, those are some other places that you can do it. Thanks again, keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video.